back to my channel Literature with Ariba, and today is the second lecture of our literary theory series, which is a foundational topic for NET, JRF, SET and any other assistant professor examination. In our previous video, we discussed about new criticism and I.A. Richards, who is considered the father of new criticism, and in today's video we will discuss about William Empson. We will discuss about William Empson, who is the disciple of I.A. Richards in the Cambridge University. His major works are Seven Types of Ambiguity, which was published in 1930, some versions of Pastoral, which was published in 1935, The Structure of Complex Words, which was published in 1951, Milton's God, which was published in 1961. It is the most controversial work from him. In this work, he talks about semantics, and in this work, he talks about seven types of ambiguity, which is very important, foundational topic for new criticism. So you will definitely memorize these major works of William Empson, because NET frequently asks you to match the key works from their author, and also want you to place them in the chronological order. So now let's move on to the first concept given by Empson, which is seven types of ambiguity. First, let's understand what Empson means by ambiguity. Ambiguity does not simply means a confusion. Okay? For Empson, ambiguity occurs when the same word या same phrase or statement allow us to have more than one possible meaning or responses. Means word तो one ही है, one word but different response or meaning जब हमें दे एक word. So this is according to Empson, this is ambiguity, right? And Empson identifies seven types of it, moving from the simpler forms of ambiguity towards the increasingly complex ones. He's सिंपलर से स्टार्ट करके उसने इंक्रीजिंगली कॉम्प्लेक्स की तरफ एम्बिग्विटी को किया है. सो लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड देम वन बाय वन विथ वेरी इजी एग्जाम्पल्स. सो फर्स्ट टाइप इज द सिंपलेस्ट, डिटेल या नुआंस, साइमल्टेनियस मीनिंग इन अ वर्ड और फ्रेज. इसमें हम फोकस कर सकते हैं जैसे कि मेटाफर होता है, रिच मेटाफर्स या फिर मल्टीपल नुआंसेस. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, वन एक्सप्रेशन और डिटेल वर्क्स इन सेवरल वेज एट द सेम टाइम. जैसे कि इमेजिन द फ्रेज हिज स्माइल या फिर हर स्माइल इज सनशाइन. राइट, her smile is sunshine. So here sunshine gives suggests brightness, warmth, happiness and beauty. So it suggests the brightness, warmth, happiness, beauty, all these ideas. It's suggested by this one word, sunshine. So one image, sunshine, is producing the several effects at the same time. It is the first type of ambiguity, right? One expression, several effects. Second type of ambiguity is alternative meanings. We have two possible meanings, but they finally come together to create one overall meaning. Right? Two meanings होंगे हमारे पास, but it will resolve into one intended tone. One intended meaning में वो resolve हो जाएंगे. He has a burning desire, for example. He has a burning desire. For example, कोई line है, he has a burning desire. So remember, two meanings combine one overall meaning. कैसे? Here burning gives us the idea of fire, but it also means very strong or intense, right? Burning means fire भी है and very strong और intense भी है. तो these meanings both come together and give one strong desire, an extremely strong desire. Meaning क्या बन रहा है? An extremely strong desire. Now third kind of ambiguity is little different. Here two apparently unrelated meanings are present simultaneously, often through a pun or wordplay. इसमें pun या wordplay के through हमें बिल्कुल डिफरेंट चीज़ को will drive the different meaning, बिल्कुल unrelated meanings. Fourth type of ambiguity is complex state of mind, complicated state of mind, right? Imagine करो someone saying I am happy to see you but I wish you had never come, है ना? Now speaker is experiencing two conflicting feelings, happiness and regret. Both meanings are important because together they show the speaker's complicated emotional state, right? It is showing contradictory emotional state of the speaker, contradictory emotional state of the speaker. So multiple meanings and complicated state of mind. This is the four kind of ambiguity. So type fifth is called a kind of fortunate confusion by Emerson. Here writer seems to discover or develop the idea while writing. Okay, the idea while writing he discovers while he was writing. It was unplanned shift in poetic direction. For example, a speaker begins with one idea, but while expressing it, another idea develops. For example, at first I thought I was angry with someone, है ना, and I was writing a letter to him, but now during writing a letter I realized that I was actually hurt. I was not angry but I was actually hurt. So this kind of a condition is known by, called by Emerson, is fifth type of ambiguity. Idea developed or discovered during the process of expression, during the process of writing, is the fifth type of ambiguity. Sixth type of ambiguity, now we reach the more complicated type, okay, gap filling. Sixth type of ambiguity. इसमें statement says nothing directly or seems irrelevant, okay, it forces the reader to invent the meaning or fill the logical gaps. Invent the meaning and fill the logical gaps. Here I had no choice but I chose to stay. देखो कंसिडर करो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल दिस वन, आई हैड नो चॉइस बट आई हैव टू स्टे. This is a kind of statement, you know. Now we are confused, did the character have a choice or not? Statement doesn't give us a simple answer, so we as readers have to interpret it. Therefore, a statement creates a problem. The reader must construct an interpretation. Okay, these kind of sentences. Here we don't know that what does a writer actually want, but we have to interpret it. Okay, this is the sixth type of ambiguity. Now let's move on to the seventh, and finally we come to the seventh and most extreme type. Here we have two completely opposite meanings, and this contradiction reveals a fundamental division or conflict in the author's mind. It is a total conflict on context. Opposite meanings coexist. Means it shows the psychological split or division in author's mind. For example, if a writer wrote that I love you and I hate you, so love and hate both are completely opposite ideas, but both are present at the same time, right? जैसे कि for example we see in the oxymoron, है ना, two completely opposite ideas in the same line. So the contradiction is not something we can simply remove. Instead, it reveals a deep conflict. So type 7 is complete contradiction or fundamental division या फिर psychological split in the author's mind, right? So these are the 7 types of ambiguity by William Emerson. Don't reduce Emerson's 7 ambiguities to 7 random devices like metaphor, pun, paradox, because that can become misleading now. Then, okay, so definitions and increasing complexities are more important for net set. Okay, ये कि सिंपलर से लेकर कॉम्प्लेक्स तक जो जा रही है इनकी. फर्स्ट तो सरफेस वर्ड प्ले होती है. देखो फर्स्ट 3 टाइप की जो हमारी ये है, दीज आर द सरफेस वर्ड प्ले. सेकेंड फेज में जो 4 और 5 टाइप ऑफ एम्बिग्विटी हैं, दीज आर क्रिएटिव प्रोसेसेस. देन थर्ड फेज में हमारी स्ट्रक्चरल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हमें देखने को मिलता है इन 6th and 7th टाइप ऑफ एम्बिग्विटी में, राइट. लेट्स कम टू अनदर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क बाय विलियम एम्सन विच इज मिल्टन्स गॉड, which was published in 1961. It is very important work by William Emerson. So Emerson does something quite interesting here. He does not simply look at Satan as an evil character who rebel against God. Instead, he asks us to look at the situation from Satan's point of view. Right? He talks about Satan's moral choice. What does he talk about? He talks about Satan's moral choice. According to Emerson, Satan faces a difficult dilemma. Emerson does not see Satan as rebellion, but he says that Satan faces a very difficult dilemma. On one side, he has submit to God and accept God's authority. Right? First, one side he has to submit to God and accept his authority, but if he does that, he has to give up his desire for freedom and autonomy, right? He has to give up his desire of freedom and autonomy. On the other side, he can rebel against God and choose his own path, right? उसके पास ये choice थी. He can submit to God or he can rebel and pursue his own path, though he know the catastrophic consequences, right? So Satan is basically facing a choice. Should I submit and lose my freedom, or should I rebel and accept the consequences? And this is what makes Emerson's interpretation interesting. He suggests that Satan's rebellion can be seen not simply as an act of pure evil. It is not just an act of pure evil here, he says, but rather a justifiable response to an unpredictable authoritarian God. Satan faces a terrible dilemma here, right? He suggests that it is the response to an extremely powerful and authoritarian authority. Now, this does not mean that Emerson simply declares Satan to be good and God to be evil. His argument is much more complex. He wants us to question the moral structure that Milton presents in Paradise Lost, right? And then Emerson takes Satan beyond being just a character in Milton's poem. He sees Satan as representing a universal human struggle. सिंबल बना दिया उन्होंने सैटन को यूनिवर्सल स्ट्रगल का. फॉर एमसन सैटन रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं डिफ़िकल्ट चॉइस दैट एनीवन मे फेस बिटवीन कन्फर्मिटी टू ऑल पावरफुल और पोटेंशियल करप्ट सिस्टम एंड द परसूट ऑफ इंडिविजुअल फ्रीडम, है ना. उसका उस स्ट्रगल का सिंबल है सैटन. Of course, choosing independence can also come with a very high personal cost. So, for Emerson, Satan's choice becomes symbolic of this larger struggle. ठीक है, conformity versus autonomy. क्या? Conformity versus autonomy. Submission versus individual freedom. And that is why Emerson's reading of Satan is so significant. And for your exam, remember these key points. Emerson का Milton's God and Satan की moral choice. Right? और Satan किसका symbol है? It is the symbol of universal struggle for freedom. And this is exactly what makes Emerson's reading controversial and interesting. He makes us question whether the moral positions presented in Paradise Lost are as straightforward as they initially appear. So that's why this is very controversial work by Emerson. Now, let's move on to the more important work by William Emerson. And this is the one fact that Emerson wrote this foundational new criticism text, which were 7 types of ambiguity, while studying under the I.A. Richards at Cambridge. Okay. So now let's move on to two more important works by William Emerson. First is Some Versions of Pastorals, which was published in 1935. 1935, and second is this, The Structure of the Complex Words. Let's start with some versions of pastorals. Usually when we hear the word pastoral, है ना, pastoral जब भी हम सुनते हैं, we think about shepherds, right, and villages, nature and simple rural life. Pastoral से what we think about rural life, right? But Emerson gives the term a much broader meaning. For him, pastoral is not limited to poems about shepherds and the countryside. He says that pastoral can be understood as a literary method in which something complex is presented through something very simple. Means जब something complex it puts to describe any literary mode that puts the complex into the simpler. So the basic formula we need to remember is complex to simple. Means कुछ complex theme है, उसको सिंपलर उसमें करना ही वो हमारा पेस्टोरल है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल थिंक अबाउट एलिस इन वंडरलैंड, जैसे ये एग्जाम्पल भी गिवन है. Story appears to be a simple children's fantasy. We have a child, talking animals, right? Strange characters and fantastic world. But beneath this simple word, we can find much more complicated ideas about language, है ना, logic and authority and society. So the complex ideas are presented through the seemingly simple form, and this is what makes Emerson's idea of pastoral much broader than idea of shepherds and rural life. Now let's come to the next work, which is The Structure of Complex Words. Here Emerson is interested in something very fascinating, means individual words. He examined how individual keywords जो हैं, individual keywords carry or built in social attitude. For example, wit in Pope, Alexander Pope में wit, fool in King Lear and honest in Othello. According to Emerson, sometimes a single word is in a literary text carries much more meaning than we initially realize. For example, let's take the word honest from Othello. Right? In Shakespeare's Othello, at first honest simply means truthful or trustworthy, right? But when we look at how Shakespeare repeatedly used the word, especially in relation to Iago, जो कि ओथेलो का विलन है, ओथेलो में विलन है, when Shakespeare repeatedly used this word relation to Iago, word becomes much more complicated because the audience knows something that some characters don't know. Iago is not actually trustworthy. Iago is not trustworthy, not honest, right? So the word honest begins to carry irony. Now honest begins to carry what? Irony and tension. And this is exactly what Emerson wants us to notice. A single word, honest, can contain layers of meaning. Similarly, Emerson examines words such as wit in Alexander Pope, fool in King Lear, and honest in Othello. These are not just ordinary dictionary words. Their meanings are shaped by context, history, है ना? History and context, and social attitudes and tensions surrounding around them. Their meanings forms because of that. So for your exam, remember 1935 में some versions of pastorals आया हमारा, and 1951 में the structure of complex words, right? And this gives us another important feature of Emerson's criticism, because he pays extremely close attention to language and the multiple meanings that language can produce, right? Now let's come to the another critic, Most important names in new criticism, one of the most important names in new criticism, and this is John Crowe Ransom. He is an American educator, critic, and poet. He coined the term uh, the new criticism in his landmark book 1941 में published हुई थी इनकी landmark book The New Criticism, which provided the movement its name and defined its major goal. Okay. Another important contribution of Ransom was the Kenyan Review. It is a journal which was founded by Ransom in 1939. Okay. He founded the Kenyan Review in 1939, and journal became an important platform for formalist and new critical literary criticism. Now, Ransom was also associated with a group of Southern intellectuals known initially as the fugitives, okay, and later the Southern agrarians, at the university alongside Alan Tate and Robert Penn Warren. You must memorize all these pointers because these are very important for your NET JRF and any other examinations point of view. These are from the PYQs. These points are directly from the PYQs. Okay, so guys, let's quickly remember the key facts. John Crowe Ransom, The New Criticism, which was published in 1941 and it named the movement. Then the Kenyan Review, which is also associated with John Crowe Ransom and which was published in 1939. Now that we know that who gave new criticism its name, let's move on to understand what Ransom actually means by new criticism and what kind of criticism he was proposing. So these are the major works by John Crowe Ransom. First one is Poem About God, which was published in 1919. Okay, it is Ransom's debut poetry collection. It was praised by and promoted by Robert Frost as well as Robert Graves. Okay. Second is Chill and Fever, which was published in 1924. Major volume of poetry है ये इनकी. Then Criticism included criticism INC, whatever you can say. It is an essay which was published in 1937. ये बहुत important है because it is the critical work. The World's Body, it is also the critical work which was published in 1938. इसी में इनका famous essay है contain जो है poetry a note on ontology. फिर है द न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म, सेमाइनल वर्क है ये तो. इट कॉइन्स द ऑफिशियल नेम फॉर द मूवमेंट, राइट. सो let's come to one of the most important concepts associated with John Crowe Ransom, the distinction between structure and texture. To understand this very easily, imagine a human body. ठीक है, सबसे पहले इमेजिन अ ह्यूमन बॉडी. ये है ह्यूमन बॉडी, है ना. नाउ आवर बॉडी हैज़ अ बेसिक फ्रेमवर्क. आवर स्केलेटन एट द सेम टाइम इट हैज़ स्किन, है ना. स्केलेटन होता है एंड इट्स स्किन होती है, मसल्स एंड ऑल दोज डिटेल दैट गिव द बॉडी इट्स एक्चुअल अपीयरेंस. Ransom uses a similar idea when talking about poetry. Structure is like a skeleton. It refers to the basic logical, narrative or argumentative core of the poem. Logical जो narrative argumentative core होती है ना poem की, it is the structure or skeleton. And texture on the other hand is the local details, means imagery, meter, metaphor, nuances surrounding the structure, means the flesh is the texture. Core rule क्या है इनका? A poem is a logical structure surrounded by a local texture, right? Ransom laid this philosophical ground for treating a poem as an autonomous physical object. Autonomous, independent which can stand alone, independent physical object या independent body, with distinguishing its logical framework from its sensory surface, right? So the concept, let me give you a simple example. Suppose a poem is basically telling us about a person losing someone they love. The basic idea or narrative is its structure, right? That poem is about a person losing someone they love. But the poet may express that grief through images, right? Through images of a empty room, fading photographs, silence, cold weather, or particular rhythm or choice of words, right? All these specific details create a texture of the poem, right? So, if we only give you the basic story that a person has lost someone and feels sad, you have the structure, but you don't have the richness of the actual poem. And this distinction is important because Ransom wants us to pay attention to the poem as an autonomous verbal object. We should not reduce, because Ransom ये ना autonomous physical object पर फोकस करवाना चाहते हैं रैनसम हमसे. वी शुड नॉट रिड्यूस अ पोएम सिंपली टू इट्स लॉजिकल आर्ग्यूमेंट और पैराफ्रेज अकॉर्डिंग टू रैनसम. नाउ फ्रॉम द एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू रिमेंबर जॉन क्राव रैनसम, स्ट्रक्चर वर्सेस टेक्सचर. और स्ट्रक्चर क्या है? इट्स अ लॉजिकल फ्रेमवर्क या फिर स्केलेटन, है ना, या तो लॉजिकल फ्रेमवर्क या फिर स्केलेटन. एंड टेक्सचर इज द imagery, meter and details, which is flesh of the poem, right? This distinction was introduced in the world's body. First, he introduced this in the world's body in 1938, and then he fully developed this concept in the New Criticism, in his book New Criticism in 1941. Now, this is the PYQ on John Crowe Ransom. नेट का PYQ है ये. इन जॉन क्राव रैनसम्स एनालिटिकल फ्रेमवर्क विच टर्म रिफर्स द लोकल डिटेल्स, है ना. लोकल डिटेल्स किसको वो करा है? सच एज स्पेसिफिक मेटाफर, इमेजरी एंड लिंग्विस्टिक नुआंसेस दैट सराउंड द लॉजिकल कोर ऑफ द पोएम. सो व्हाट इज दिस? what are the local details that surrounds the logical core of the poem? तो logical core क्या है? अभी हमने पीछे पढ़ा है. it is structure. Logical core is structure. And what are these details known as? Texture. So correct answer is what? It is texture. Basic fact: the Kenyan Review was founded in 1939 and it was founded in 1939 and John Crowe Ransom at Kenyon College, Ohio में. It is very important journal. Why it is very important? Because it was not simply an ordinary literary magazine. It became an important platform for new critical theory, close reading and modernist poetry. Okay, because it served as the primary organ or journal for publishing the new critical theory, close reading and modernist poetry. Ransom edited it from 1939 to 1959, using the journal to institutionalize new criticism as the dominant academic method in American universities. Okay, and what do you mean by institutionalization here? Simply put, new criticism was no longer just an idea discussed by the small groups of critics. Through journals, through universities, academic teaching and scholarly publications, it became a recognized and influential academic method of studying literature. Okay? And the Kenyon Review played an important role in that process. The journal also published important work by several major critics associated with the new criticism, including Clint Brooke, Alan Tate, Robert Penn Warren, William Emerson, and W.K. Wimsett. Okay, and one more important thing is this, that Ransom's foundational essay, Criticism, in INC dot, which laid out the manifesto for academic literary criticism, was also published in the Kenyan Review. So yes, when you see the Kenyan Review in a question, don't just remember the name of the journal. Connect it with John Crowe Ransom, 1939, Kenyan College, and the institutionalization of new criticism. You have to memorize all these keywords with वन अनदर, मतलब एक साथ ऑल टुगेदर आपको लर्न करने पड़ेंगे. ओके, देन यू विल एबल टू क्रैक UGC नेट और JRF एग्जाम. ओके, so that's all for today's topic. I hope this video helped you understand the concept clearly and made your preparation little easier. So if you found this video helpful, do like the video, share it with your fellow aspirants, and subscribe to the channel. Till then, keep learning, keep revising, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.